Good afternoon. Oh. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Ah, super, sorry. All right, let me start then. Excellencies, dignitaries, and all guests, it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to welcome you to this Norwegian, CARICOM, CRFM, and UNDP side event that focuses on international and regional efforts to cooperatively address organized crime in the fisheries sector. My name is Emma Witboy, and I'm here on behalf of the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. I'm going to be hosting the first part of the agenda. Before we start officially, I need to make a few housekeeping rules, please. The first is that you should all have received these headsets, which I don't have on, but actually you need to put on, please, because then it's for audio purposes. It's not translation, it's so you can hear well. And if you have any challenges, please raise your hand, and either Simon over there will assist you or somebody from the technical team. Thank you. Secondly, I need to also announce that we have to stick to our time limit, please, because after this event, another event will start immediately. Another housekeeping announcement, please. You all received a QR code that signed you in here. That QR code will also give you access to the reception, which is straight after this event, and we invite you all to join us. And then finally, I'd like to note, please, we are live streaming this event, just so that you know. And it is going to be shown on YouTube, our Blue Justice website, and UNDP's Oceans Action face page. So welcome to all the viewers as well. That's enough from me now. So I'm now going to start out with the official program, and I would like to first of all invite our first speaker, His Excellency Bjørnar Skjæran, the Norwegian Minister of Fisheries and Ocean Policy, to please present his welcome address. The floor is yours, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, respected colleagues, dear friends. In 2018, we reached a milestone in Copenhagen. The International Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry was adopted by 9 countries. 4 years later, we now have 48 supporting countries. This is very promising, and I encourage more states to support it. We are moving in the right direction, and we are moving at speed. As Norwegian Minister of Fisheries and Ocean Policy, I would like to thank everyone for the trust that was placed in Norway as Secretariat of the Declaration. And on behalf of the 48 supporting countries, I would like to quote from the Declaration. We are convinced that there is a need for the world community to recognize the existence of transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry. Well spoken. And we believe that this activity has a serious effect on the economy. It affects markets, harms the environment, and undermines human rights. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, this threat is real. Yes, today is not only one of the biggest, threats to our fisheries. It is a threat to many precious marine ecosystems. It is a threat to the livelihoods and food supply of millions. In the end, it is a threat to our common future. We will not reach the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030 if we cannot fight organized crime in the global fishing industry, because these crimes reach wider than illegal fishing. They include human trafficking, economic crime, and corruption, and they must be stopped. I am very pleased to see several ministers supporting the declaration present at this event. A big thank you to my dear colleagues from Belize, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, and Jamaica. Through the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism in CARICOM, no less than 12 Caribbean countries have decided to join the declaration. I thank you for your support. Norway's contribution, in addition to being the secretariat of the Copenhagen Declaration, is the launch of the Blue Justice Initiative. This is a concrete way of taking action to address the challenges raised in the declaration. Through Blue Justice, Norway supports a number of projects against fisheries crime. This includes the training of law enforcement, interagency and international cooperation, and the development of digital tools in cooperation with UN organizations such as UNODC, ILO, IOM, and UNDP. I want to thank the United Nations Development Programme, and particularly the team at the Blue Resilience Project. Several countries present here today are working with this project. On the issue of digital tools, Norway is working together with the UNDP, which is the administrator of the Blue Justice community. This is a secure digital platform for state-to-state cooperation. Using this platform, government officials can build networks and seek assistance in their work against organized crime in fisheries. And I am proud that we are backing this up by giving countries assistance in analyzing data from the International Blue Justice Tracking Center in the far north of Norway. All countries need to be able to track vessels in their own waters, to be able to detect potential illegal fishing activities. Over time, we have been building our own capabilities to track illegal fishing activities in the Norwegian waters, including investing in our own micro-satellites. Today, we have 5 micro-satellites in operation, orbiting the Earth to monitor AIS signals from vessels at sea. Our satellites collect about 2.1 billion AIS signals a year, 5.7 million signals every day across the globe. And I have asked the Norwegian Coastal Administration to clarify if it is possible to share these data with other countries within the Blue Justice Framework, and if so, facilitate for it. These eyes in the sky are essential for Norway's own work against fisheries crime. They provide important pieces of information needed to build a maritime picture to understand and deal with fisheries crime. Such knowledge is important for ocean nations like us. It lets us use our resources in a smarter way and better engage in regional and international cooperation. This will lead to more sustainable oceans worldwide. In May 2021, the Caribbean ministers of CRFM started in a resolution that they, and I read, endorse the Copenhagen Declaration and supports the Blue Justice Initiative as frameworks for international and regional cooperation to combat organized crime in fisheries. Again, I thank you for your support and encourage other states to follow the Caribbean lead and the 48 countries that currently support the Copenhagen Declaration. At last, I look forward to seeing you at the Blue Justice Conference, which is scheduled to be held in the UN city in Copenhagen in March next year. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would now like to pass over to our next speaker, who is Gunnar Stolsvik. He is the Specialist Director at the Fisheries Department at the Norwegian Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries. Over to you, Gunnar.
Thank you very much. And dear friends, Your Excellencies, participants, and also all the people that are following our side event online. I thank you for being invited here and giving me the opportunity to address this important event. My name is Gunnar Støtsig. I work in the Norwegian Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, where also we have the Blue Justice Secretariat. And I am part of that. So I would like to talk more about the Copenhagen Declaration and also the Blue Justice Initiative. And actually, by addressing the declaration, it is necessary to go back to 2008. In 2008, the United Nations General Assembly recognized in the Fisheries resolution. Every year, the UN General Assembly adopts a Fisheries resolution. But that particular year, it was recognized that there is links between illegal fishing and organized crime. In addition, it also encourages states and organizations to study this issue and to make the findings publicly available. Since then, a number of experts and research activities has been conducted and has made it clear that organized crime in fisheries are real. So as you can see, there is an international process that goes back to 2008, which I believe is relevant when we are discussing the origin and the background of this declaration, the Copenhagen Declaration. So in order to follow up this resolution, a number of research reports were produced. I will particularly mention UNODC, which in my view was the first UN agency that had a quite comprehensive report and study on this issue, and that was in 2011. And that also sparked new discussions and new processes in the UN. We have also arranged several large international conferences on this issue since that time. And all of this has sort of built up to where we are today. First, the same as with the Caribbean, it started as a regional declaration. And that was in 2017 when all the Nordic countries, through the Nordic Council of Ministers, adopted a Nordic declaration, minister declaration, on transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry. Inspired by that, 9 countries took the initiative for the international declaration. And that is what we are discussing here today. So it was, as you know, it was adopted in Copenhagen, and that's why we call it the Copenhagen Declaration. I of course wish that it was in a Norwegian town, but it was in Denmark. So what is the content of this declaration? Well, first of all, it's not a legal document, it's a political statement. On a very strategic level, the declaration refers to the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly Goal 14 and 16. Now, Goal 16 addresses all forms of organized crime. Fisheries crime is a form of organized crime and thus falls under this goal. But in order to reach the SDG goal 14, which addresses IUU fishing, we also need to work on the organized crime issue in fisheries. So there is an interlinkage between those two goals. The declaration also recognized that that these activities committed through the whole fisheries value chain. So we're not only talking about the fisheries activities at sea, but it's the handling of the fish, processing, sale, etc. Also financing of illegal activities. And it also highlights the need for interagency and international cooperation, and of course also recognize the particular challenges of developing countries and small island development states in facing this problem. So that is basically the background of the declaration. And in order to support this declaration, Norway in 2018, during the Our Ocean conference that was held in Oslo, we launched the Blue Justice Initiative, which is basically an initiative to support this declaration on the implementation and also address these questions. So one of the tools in this initiative is, as the minister just talked about, is the International Blue Justice Tracking Center, which is in Vardø, an Arctic town in the far, far north of Norway, where we, from the Norwegian side, we have experts that are dealing with these issues in our own waters. And we established this center in order to assist and cooperate with other countries through the Blue Justice Initiative and through a secure digital platform called the Blue Justice Community. And that is what we want to build, because if we are going to work together towards a common goal, we need to trust each other. We have to build a community of experts, a community of professionals that know how to work, and they need to know who to reach out to help each other. And that is one of the goals of the initiative. We also we have very good cooperation with a number of UN agencies. UNDP has been mentioned here, which is also the administrator of the platform. UNODC, which is also just behind there, has a more regional project on Sri Lanka and the Maldives, which trains Coast Guard, but also customs, fishery authorities, and I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, they do training for law enforcement on the ground. And it's also very happy to say that there have come real results out of that project, where they assisted Sri Lanka to seize large amounts of dried shark fins and dried manta ray gills. I believe it was 300 kilos of dried shark fins. So, and that is, of course, a very tangible result that we're very happy about. We also have a project with ILO and IOM, the International Organization for Migration, which is a research project on human trafficking to the fishing industry. And we also have a project which the Norwegian Police Academy is involved in. So this is just an example. Emma from UNDP is also going to talk more about their project in the panel afterwards. So I think I leave it with that. And I believe that to build a blue economy, you also have to make sure that the shadow blue economy does not get too big space into that economy. So we need also to work against illegal activities. We need to work towards, we have to have good crime prevention strategies. And of course, we also need international cooperation to be able to uncover the illegal activities that are occurring. So we therefore need to work towards a sustainable and fair blue economy, free from fisheries crime. So this is the goal of the Blue Justice Initiative, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gunnar. We're now going to be going to the second part of our agenda, which will focus on the Caribbean regional instruments to address fisheries crime, and will also be input from the UNDP's Blue Resilience Project. I'm going to invite now Dr. Bellamy, who is the Chief Executive Officer at the Jamaican National Fisheries Authority, to come on stage. He will chair the panel, and I'd like to then invite the honourable ministers to join, please, as well. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Emma. Oops. Good afternoon, and thank you. Is it okay now? I've been introduced as the Chief Executive Officer for Jamaica, but I'm here representing the CRFM, which is the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism. I would like to wish Milton a speedy recovery. The Executive Director is sick at home. Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon again. It is my pleasure to be your moderator this afternoon for this session. During this session, we will provide some insight into the issues, challenge, and recent action taken by regional and national levels, by Caribbean countries and institutions in addressing fisheries crime. Before I call on our distinguished panelists, please allow me to provide a brief overview on the regional situation in order to establish the background and context for the panel. The member states of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, and its specialized fishery organization, CRFM, are small island developing states with limited land-based resources, but a large ocean space and ocean resources. The ocean resources in the Caribbean include rich and high diverse and productive marine ecosystems, with hundreds of species of marine fish, seabirds, marine mammals, and other marine life forms. These marine ecosystems and living marine resources in our waters are very important for food security and nutrition, livelihood, trade, and foreign exchange earnings. Input into our tourist industry, culture, and social and economic cohesiveness, stability, and for several coastal communities. The key points is that our ocean resources are fundamentally important and critical for sustainable economic and social development for our countries and the welfare of our people, for now and more so for the future. In 1982, in Montego Bay, the convention provided Caribbean countries with new opportunities for economic growth and development based on living and non-living resources within the extended ocean space under their jurisdiction. The convention also empowered coastal states to take actions to protect and conserve marine environments and the resources under their sovereignty and jurisdiction. This is why regional policymakers in the Caribbean attach such high importance and priority to our ocean economies. By developing, management, and conserving and protecting these resources. This was the inspiration that led to the development of the CRFM. And this has allowed the support to facilitate and enhance regional cooperation in the fishery development, conservation and management of the welfare of the people of the region. Today there are many difficult challenges facing the fishery sector in the region. There's no doubt that one of the major problems that we are facing in the region is IUU fishing and related fisheries crime. Illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing and criminal networks that use fishing as a covert form for their criminal enterprise are major problems which are profoundly impacting fisheries globally and in the Caribbean region. Drug trafficking, human and small arms trafficking, and traders in contraband goods, amongst others, are using fishing as cover to conduct their criminal activities. These criminal activities not only profoundly impact on the sustainability of the fisheries resources and marine ecosystem, but also the livelihoods, food security, and social and economic well-being and security of the people of the region. It is not surprising, therefore, that governments have accorded high priority to combat fishing crimes in the region. It is a very difficult problem that requires enhanced regional and international cooperation and collaboration to effectively eradicate. The CRFM has been coordinating regional efforts to prevent, deter, and eradicate IUU fishing and crimes in the fishery sector. One of the important policy instruments that was adopted by the region policymakers to guide coordination and concerted action on IUU fishing and fisheries crimes in 2010, Castries Declaration and IUU. Whilst we have made progress, there's still a long way to go. More recently, in May 2021, at the 50th meeting of the Ministerial Council of the CRFM, we passed a resolution, MC15 of 2021, recognizing the value of the Copenhagen Declaration and the Blue Justice Initiative as important non-binding international framework for cooperation among states to prevent and eradicate transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry, and expressed unanimous support for the declaration and the Blue Justice Initiative. As well, called upon CRFM member states to individually support this declaration. In October 21, this was done at the CRFM high-level meeting of the ministers responsible for fisheries, which 12 CARICOM countries collectively signed the Copenhagen Declaration. It is against this background that we are meeting here today to focus on stock-taking, strengthening partnerships, capacity building, and application of innovative and technologically based solutions in combating fisheries crimes in the Caribbean area and globally. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure now to introduce our first speaker, the Honorable Pernell Charles, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Jamaica. You like to sit and present, or you like to come?
Thank you, Dr. Bellamy, here, who has made it clear he's not here in his capacity as Jamaica. And I'll remember that. Let me acknowledge a colleague ministers on stage, and thank also the government and people of Portugal for hosting us. Blue Justice, Emma and the UNDP team. Today is an important day. Today we discuss issues that will cause national security food security, environmental protection, and sustainable development to intersect. Today, we are all here committed, convinced that the fisheries sector deserves our commitment and effort. Today, we all, however, acknowledge that because of the illegal, unreported, and unregulated fisheries which is taking place, uh, we have before us confronting a barrier to us advancing this sustainable fisheries sector that we want in the Caribbean and across the world. And let me also acknowledge my good friend from Trinidad and her team. And so it is widely recognized that the IUU depletes fishing stocks. It affects our marine habitat. It puts honest fishers out of work and in unfair disadvantage. It distorts competition, weakens our coastal communities, and that is very important for us on this stage, because for us, the larger portion of our population is in the coastal community. And so this is an important discussion. It is estimated that the IUU catch and its impact rather on the environment is more than 30% of the total catch. And that for some species, IUU catches could be up to 3 times the permitted amount. Now I want that to sink in, and I want us to acknowledge the impact that has, the negative consequence that will have on the fisheries industry and on our industries nationally. It is therefore important for us to use data and to find ways to put in place systems such as that being done now through the Blue Justice Initiative. In Jamaica, a straightforward estimation of the impact of IUU fishing is difficult because of the dynamic, highly mobile, clandestine nature of this activity. However, if we look on the foreign motor fishing vessels that we have apprehended since the 1980s, and if we extrapolate the information on the average rate of poaching, we are looking at losing approximately 300 million US due to the foreign IUU fishing, and that's that's a lot for us. That's a big impact on our economy, and that's a conservative estimate of the direct losses in only a part of the picture. So, as indicated above, the devastating impact of IUU fishing results in overexploitation and the eventual collapse of important fisheries, thereby exacerbating poverty and threatening the livelihood of some of the most vulnerable citizens in our country. In Jamaica, IUU fishing by foreign poachers has been identified as one of, if not the major cause of decline of our queen conch population on the Petrobank, and even caused us to have to close down the fisheries of queen conch for 2 years. This resulted in annual losses of approximately $6 million in direct export earnings and put some 5,500, let me say that number again, 5,500 Jamaicans out of work. Think about the multiplier impact on families, the magnitude of that impact on our economy. And so the scourge of poaching, especially by foreign fishers, has cost Jamaica billions of dollars in lost earnings and has prevented thousands of Jamaicans from accessing gainful employment. Unfortunately, the appalling state of affairs is not unique to our valuable conch resources. So how do we address it? I'm going to quickly talk about just 5 issues. Number 1, vessel tracking. Now, ideally, all vessels in every country will have been fitted with equipment to be tracked. That's not the reality. The reality for us is that the vessel monitoring systems are found on the large industrial vessels, those that have the money to put them in, and have the added function, of course, of locating the vessels, which is mandatory if they're going to receive a permit to fish for conch and lobster in our waters. The reality is that there is a huge gap as it relates to those vessel monitoring systems being placed in the predominantly the predominantly large, small-scale vessels. And those artisanal fishers. And those are the ones which we have now the responsibility of protecting and ensuring that we can find a way to implement that equipment in their vessels. Particularly, as Dr. Bellamy, it's the International Year of Artisanal Fishing. Secondly, let's talk about the Blue Justice community very quickly. Currently, the staff that we have at home at our National Fisheries Authority have all joined the Blue Justice community. So everyone has their own personal login, and they can access the various levels of collaboration with members from regions from the region and across the world. However, most notable has been the improvement in the interagency collaboration seen in Jamaica since we have signed the Copenhagen Agreement, and I would, of course, encourage others to do the same. The map tools that are available with GIS capability to show visuals of vessels tracked is critical, and other geospatial technologies such as satellite and radar maps are also essential. And Jamaica is developing coastal radar mapping capabilities, which is going to add to the detection of marine crafts within a certain range. Crimes associated with the fisheries sector have created great interest in combining resources at various levels and from different spheres. Because as we know, the fisheries sector is used as a shroud for human trafficking, for trafficking of guns and drugs and other criminal activity. So we in Jamaica have recognized the importance, and of course, we have given our support at the highest level in signing the Copenhagen Declaration. Let me move on quickly to the Port State Measures Agreement. Jamaica has begun, and we can announce that we have begun to take steps to accede to the Port State Measures Agreement since 2019 with the assistance and support of the FAO and the US government. And under the Port State Measures Agreement, foreign fishing vessels suspected or found to be involved in IUU activity are denied essential port services by the state who is a party to the agreement. And therefore, this acts as a deterrent to the illegally caught and traded products. Now, we again have some major gaps in Jamaica as it relates to the development of the appropriate facilities. And so we've had some discussions to see how we can advance partnerships to put in place the necessary facilities for us to operate what we have signed to. So we're talking about small vessels being equipped. We're talking about the port being in a state where we can function appropriately in accordance with the agreement. And now we're talking about enforcement. Let's discuss the enforcement capacity very, very quickly. While Jamaica is currently making efforts to improve our compliance capacity at our NFA, which is our National Fisheries Authority, the acquisition of assets such as patrol vessels and surveillance equipment also presents a major hurdle, but it is essential. And so we will need to find the funding, perhaps through international partnerships, to make sure that we are not just talking about enforcement, but we are executing and able to effect enforcement. Lastly, I want to just say that Jamaica is a party to sub-regional and regional fisheries management arrangements, and we intend to implement the agreed measures adopted in the framework of such arrangements, and those arrangements are consistent with international law. The goal is to deter the activities of vessels engaging in IUU and engaging in activities that undermine the effectiveness of conservation and management measures. And so we are particularly concerned with a number of the issues relating to, of course, those areas like conch and lobsters, which are critical to our industry. And it is essential for us, for example, to have synchronization of closed seasons for those products. That's the way that we're going to work together to solve the problem. Let me conclude by just highlighting there is no simple, no single, or no short-term solution to IUU fishing. And there's no simple, single, or short-term solution to the related organized crime issues and the network which is focusing their commitment and effort on keeping things as they are. They want the status quo. We want change. So we are the ones who have to put in more effort, more work, and have to make sure that we're not talking, but we are acting. Successful responses will require then a holistic and integrated approach, where policies are linked to the drivers for IUU fishing. And to this end, Jamaica is recommending and proposing that we are fit and we are hungry and we are excited to serve in any capacity, perhaps as a regional hub, as we have proposed, for the Blue Justice sub-office. That's the future that we see, where we can have that capacity to directly impact and to give support within the region and beyond. Success, my friends, is going to require independent action by states, bilateral action, particularly by adjacent states, and multilateral action by all of us. It will involve greater commitment to and implementation of internationally recognized benchmarks for fisheries management across the world. I thank you, and I wish for you a wonderful event.
Thank you, Minister Charles. Next to present is the Minister of the Blue Economy and Civil Aviation, Belize, His Excellency Andre Perez. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon. Greetings from the people and government of Belize. I want to thank you very much for the invitation to today's side event on fisheries law enforcement and international and Caribbean instruments on transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry. As the Minister of the Blue Economy and Civil Aviation, I am pleased to be part of this panel. Belize, in recent years, initiated a successful fisheries conservation and management framework that has sustained our small-scale fisheries. Belize has implemented robust science-based management strategies for its fisheries. And also Belize has declared in 2022 a total of 11.3% of Belize's ocean as no-take zone, high biodiversity protection zones. Moreover, Belize has also developed comprehensive legislation for improved management of its fisheries resources, as well as addressing issues to curb IUU fishing. Under the Blue Bond Conservation Funding Agreement, Belize is committed to the implementation of a governance framework for domestic and high seas fisheries consistent with transparent, science-based, and socially responsible international best practices. This framework calls for ensuring compliance with all national, regional, and global obligations related to fishing activities, including enhanced monitoring to address illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing activities. We also recognize the need to collectively fight against IUU fishing, and together, countries must continue to implement tangible actions to curb these illicit activities, both at the regional and international level. Central to the sustainable management of our fisheries resources is the combating of IUU fishing and transnational organized crime. IUU fishing, we recognize that it undermines the advancements made globally in strengthening fisheries management, thus impacting national economies and livelihoods of fishing communities. We too, as I would like to add, as how my colleague minister from Jamaica shared instances, especially with queen conch and lobster. And it's unfortunate that we have to reach to these decisions, as our colleague mentioned from Jamaica, to close the conch season for 2 years. This, I'm sure, must be recognized as necessary evil to combat what is in. Our country recognizes that we are in danger as well, that is very vulnerable. And while the conch season, the conch products and lobster as well is very much big part of the blue economy in Belize, we recognize that it is precariously on a dangerous side that we must be monitoring very closely. In fact, this weekend was the end of the conch season because we met our quotas, and that is part of what we do is by setting quotas. But we are under existential threat of the regional and foreign invasion of fisheries there, and that is very much a serious threat. Also, educating our people about the size of the conch that it must be harvesting. So constantly, not only we're talking about using technology, but it also entails education, educating our people who are also involved in this. And so in October 2021, Belize joined other countries in signing to the International Declaration Against Transnational Organized Crime in the Global Fishing Industry. The Copenhagen Declaration complements the 2010 Castries Declaration on IUU fishing, which provides CRFM member states with a harmonized framework to combat IUU fishing. In addition, Belize has also adopted the 2019-2029 Regional Action Plan to prevent, deter, and eliminate IUU fishing in the WCAF-C member countries. Furthermore, Belize adopted the 2018 OSPESCA, the Organization of Fisheries and Aquaculture in Central America. This strategy is to prevent, deter, and eliminate the IUU fishing in territorial waters and fisheries community. In 2020, Belize implemented a modernized and robust Fisheries Resources Act, which creates the requisite legal framework for sustainable fisheries. This new act establishes high fines and penalties which serve as deterrents in addressing illegal fishing. The act also makes some provisions similar to the US Lacey Act, which has fines and penalties for fisheries-related offenses committed contrary to the laws of another state. The COVID-19 pandemic devastating impacts on our economies and increasing threat to our resources by climate change and climate variability makes the fight against IUU fishing even more urgent and critical. It is crucial that new and innovative tools be employed that integrate modern technology in the monitoring and controlling of our small-scale fishing fleet. In fact, Belize is one of the few countries in the region that is piloting the use of mobile transceiver units on our small-scale fishing fleet as a tool to combat IUU fishing. The Belize Fisheries Department and co-managers of the marine protected areas have adopted the use of spatial monitoring and assessment tool. This is to improve enforcement efforts in the national waters. We are hopeful that our local efforts can provide effective examples and tools for our neighboring countries to improve the monitoring, control, and surveillances of fishing operations. As a small island developing state, Belize and the CRFM members countries rely on the collaboration and external support from local and international partners for technical and financial support, as well as adopting models of success. Likewise, we invite the global community and partners to share experiences in tackling IUU fishing and organized crime in the global fishing industry through improved legal frameworks and use of modern technologies. My government affirms its commitment to continue to collaborate with partners to further address transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry through implementation of regional and international instruments. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. And next we have presenting to us today is the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor from Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, Minister Caesar.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, excellencies, dignitaries, I greet you on behalf of the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the people of the OECS and of CARICOM. It is definitely a sincere honor, a pleasure and a privilege to stand before you at this side event to discuss an issue of monumental importance. Our oceans, for centuries, they have produced resources that have guaranteed food security and food sovereignty. And it is the household of the common human resource for mankind. I am not here to traverse the theories of the freedom of the seas from Hugo Grotius. Neither am I here to speak about the other crime scenes on the oceans that we have seen, whether it was the transatlantic slave trade or the most recent issues touching and concerning terrorism. Because we must note that whilst we are here to discuss a particular subject matter touching and concerning fisheries, that our oceans have been historically a major crime scene. And it is our duty, and we must pledge and we must recommit our efforts to act globally in solidarity so that we can ensure that we bring an end to illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing in our world. In Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, we have adopted very early the port state measures. But before I go into some of the measures that we have adopted in Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, I want to send a very clear message to every member state of United Nations. For meaningful change to take place, it first begins with a clear expression of the political will to bring about change. And sadly so, there are still some member states of the United Nations that have not yet expressed that political will in a way that will benefit the thrust and the efforts of others to fight IUU fishing. Once the political will is expressed, the legal or the legislative or the jurisprudential framework must be established. Because it is one thing for policymakers to speak, policymakers cannot and should not operate outside of a jurisprudential framework. Then there has to be the mobilization of resources, and there are bilateral platforms, multilateral platforms, and in-country budgets which must be mobilized so that we can fight IUU fishing. It is one thing to speak about the subject matter. This issue has to be addressed in the budgets of all member states of the United Nations, because we have to allocate the relevant and the requisite resources. We have signed on in Saint Vincent and the Grenadines to several treaties internationally touching and concerning the port state measures so that we can monitor the activities at our ports. And on the ground, we have expended significant sums to ensure that our Coast Guard, that the capacity building is in place, and that we have the requisite technical resources to advance the cause and the fight against IUU fishing. The 14th meeting of the Ministerial Council of the CRFM reiterated the importance of strengthening national legislations and regulations to manage resources and combat IUU. The heads of state and government had instructed to the CRFM and to OSPESA to work together to strengthen cooperation between the two regional fisheries organizations to improve the conservation, management, and sustainable development of marine living resources of the Caribbean Sea. In Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, we have a total ban on the capturing of turtles. We are advancing in the region the setting of an upper limit for the capturing of lobsters, because most countries in the Caribbean, we have a lower limit, but we're putting both an upper and a lower limit. We have come out globally and we have noted that we are against the finning of sharks. And still, there are several members of the United Nations that have not made this declaration clear. We will continue to work within the CARICOM space. We will continue to work within the global space to ensure that we fully participate in the fight against IUU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We must notice from the three presenters that the conversation was almost the same. We all see this issue as a major issue for us, and this is something that we must realize that we are committed to in the Caribbean, and the CRFM, its regional mechanism to eliminate IUU fishing in the region. Next on the program is our United Nations Development Program Blue Resilience Project Manager, Dr. Emma, please.
Thank you very much to Dr. Bellamy. Thank you very much to the panelists. And we do indeed miss Milton here today, and we wish him a speedy recovery. So again, Excellencies, dignitaries, and all who are here and watching on the live stream, it is a great honor to now speak on behalf of UNDP's Blue Resilience Project. We've heard today from speakers, particularly on this panel, that crime in the marine fisheries sector has very real negative impacts, in particular on small island developing states. It threatens food security, employment, the livelihoods and well-beings of coastal communities, and the rule of law. It undermines the health of the oceans and the sustainability of its marine resources. And it threatens the ability of countries to realize the full potential of a sustainable blue economy. In fact, from a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, SDG perspective, organized crime in the fisheries sector impedes the ability of countries to realize very many of the SDGs. This includes definitely SDG 14, life below water. It also includes SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, as well as the SDG 16 target of combating all forms of organized crime. We have also heard today, however, the positive story, and that's why we're here. And that is that nations globally, including in particular in the Caribbean region, through international and regional frameworks, are working together towards practical solutions to address this problem. And as part of this, governments are focusing on building strengthened institutional responses to fisheries crime. In particular, as we've heard, effective cooperation between institutions and agencies to this end. Now, the UNDP's Blue Resilience Project, which I represent here, is committed to supporting these countries in this regard. And we are very happy to be engaging with various CARICOM CRFM member states present here today. UNDP is, of course, well placed to offer this type of support globally, given its network of local offices in over 174 countries and territories around the world. And this includes a strong presence on the ground in the Caribbean region. Our project is part of Norway's Blue Justice Initiative, as you've heard, and the associated digital tools. And as such, it supports implementation of the International Copenhagen Declaration. Now, UNDP Blue Resilience offers support in two key ways to countries that are seeking to strengthen their ability to address crime in the fisheries sector. The first is by facilitating access to the digital data and analysis support that is offered by Norway regarding the tracking of vessels that we have heard about. And we do this through our role as administrator of the secure digital platform, the Blue Justice Community. And secondly, what we can offer is we offer countries support to run what we have called the Blue Action Dialogues. And these are UNDP facilitated, country-led collaborative processes that focus on fostering dialogue and cooperation between institutions and agencies that work together to tackle fisheries crime. A key first element of a Blue Action Dialogue is developing a comprehensive shared understanding of the fisheries crime context throughout the value chain in the country in question. And here information from the digital data that's provided through the Blue Justice community contributes. The Blue Action Dialogues, they are country-led in that they are co-designed with countries, they build on existing processes and structures, and they're thus country-tailored with regards to context and to needs. And they are knowledge-based. So they draw on targeted empirical research, they draw on systems thinking and on local knowledge and skills that exist. And they foster peer support between agencies within countries as well as between countries. We are delighted to be embarking on the process of working together with various CARICOM and CRFM member states in initiating these dialogues. And I'm also pleased to say today that we are actually profiling these dialogues for the first time at an event, and we've produced a pamphlet to this end which is also available in PDF form, which explains a little bit more in detail. I would like to close this very short presentation of mine by first of all thanking Norway for its continuous support of our project. I would also like to thank the CRFM and CARICOM along with its member states for very fruitful collaboration on this event. And there in particular, I need to thank Milton, who I hope is watching on the live stream. And I would like to say that we look very much forward to future cooperation. So thank you very much. I hand back to Dr. Bellamy. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emo. It was very good. And I just like to say again, today in the Caribbean, we are celebrating International Fisherman's Day. It's a big day, and there are a lot of celebrations going on today. And I'd just like to bring to the attention of the audience, the theme for this year's, even though it's IAFA's year of the year of the artisanal fisher and fish farmer and aquaculture, in CARICOM, it's collective action for safe and resilient Caribbean fisheries. So it is really, today is a culmination of this idea. We're working together, even though some of the ministers here would probably thought they should be home celebrating. We can see that today is a part of the celebration. So thank you all. Next on the agenda, we'll be getting a presentation from the Deputy Director General, Minister of Trade, Industry, Fisheries, Section for Fisheries, Crime and Compliance. Sorry. The Caribbean Community CARICOM Assistant Secretary General, Joseph Cox. Okay, it will be a video presentation. Sorry about that.
Distinguished heads of state, honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to deliver remarks on behalf of the CARICOM Secretariat at the closeout of this enriching high-level discussion on tackling organized crime in the global fishing industry. First, let me express my regrets for not attending in person, but be assured that this does not diminish the extreme importance that is accorded to the conservation, sustainable use, and indeed the peace and security of the oceans for CARICOM. IUU fishing and transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry constitutes a serious threat to the security and sustainable use of the region's living marine resources and marine biodiversity, which jeopardizes the food security and blue economic development of the countries in the region. IUU fishing and maritime security more broadly speaking is also of paramount concern to CARICOM since it undermines efforts to conserve and sustainably manage fisheries resources and furthermore jeopardizes food security, livelihoods, and incomes from fisheries. In that regard, Article 60 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, an article dedicated entirely to fisheries management, commits the member states of the community to collaborate with each other in the ongoing surveillance of their exclusive economic zones. To this end, the Caribbean community has invested in institutions such as the CRFM and the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security Impacts to both improve our collective management of our living marine resources and to bolster regional capacity in security matters. In so doing, we have strengthened our ability to combat the scourge of IUU fishing and the organized crime that is part of that phenomenon. In 2010, our heads of government issued the Castries Declaration on Illegal, Unreported, and Unregulated Fishing, in which they expressed their determination to work together and with other stakeholders, including regional and multilateral partners, to identify, prevent, deter, and eliminate IUU fishing within the Caribbean and globally. Among other things, the Castries Declaration committed the region to adopt, review, and revise relevant legislation and regulations regarding compliance with fisheries management measures and to provide sanctions of sufficient gravity so as to deprive offenders of the benefits accruing from their illegal activities and to deter further IUU fishing. Honorable Ministers, in May 2021, you adopted a resolution in support of the Copenhagen Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime in the Global Fishing Industry and the Blue Justice Initiative, both of which provide for international cooperation to prevent, combat, and eradicate transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry. By October 2021, we have had 12 CARICOM ministers joining the Copenhagen Declaration and supporting the Blue Justice Initiative. So it is clear that a high-level commitment is present. CARICOM leaders have paved the groundwork for effective cooperation, sustained capacity building, and lasting partnerships in improving the safety of the Caribbean Sea and the protection and safety of our hard workers in the fishing industries across the member states. We are therefore heartened to be able to synergize bilaterally with the government of Norway and multilaterally with all states and stakeholders signaling their commitment to blue justice globally. I also wish to thank the Executive Director and staff of the CRFM Secretariat for coordinating and mobilizing stakeholders in the region for this important initiative. I also wish to thank the Honorable Andre Perez from Belize, the Honorable President Charles Jr. from Jamaica, and the Honorable Sabota Caesar from Saint Vincent and the Grenadines for their show of commitment and for sharing their experiences in today's important discussion. Finally, we also wish to express our profound gratitude to the government of Norway and particularly the Norwegian Minister of Trade, Industry and Fisheries for their leadership in this Blue Justice Initiative and for the broad support to CARICOM over the years as a key development partner. Likewise, we are grateful for the support of the UNDP through the Blue Resilient Project as a long-standing partner in CARICOM. In closing, I wish to pledge the full support of the CARICOM Secretariat in facilitating the success of this important initiative. The region is strongest when it leverages its collective resources and intellect, as we have done successfully in many multilateral endeavors, and we will continue to play our part in ensuring the success of this and other programs in the area of fisheries management and sustainable ocean development.
Thanks to Mr. Cox for that presentation. So let me do it again. Let me start over. The Deputy Director General, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, Section for Fisheries, Crime and Compliance, Mr. Norhang, please.
Your Excellencies, colleagues and friends, on behalf of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, we would like to thank you for your participation today. Special thanks to the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism and UNDP for their valuable contribution in organizing this great event. Thank you to all the guests participating today and other ministers who are also participating. And thank you to all the speakers, in particular the ministers from Jamaica, Belize, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, and Norway. We have had many excellent speeches today on a very important topic, the importance of ocean sustainability and combating fisheries crime regionally and globally in the fishing industry. We hope this event was inspiring and will give us renewed energy for the work that is ahead of us. On behalf of the Norwegian Ministry of Fisheries and Ocean Policy, we invite you all to a reception by the docks right outside. So right after this, but we first like a picture of the ministers. If all the ministers can come up so we could have a group picture, please. Thank you.